In this tutorial we are going to do paint weighting. Now the best way to explain what paint weighting is, it's basically what tells Maya which part of the geometry should follow which joint. So for example, why this part of the shoulder should move and why not the rest of the arm. So just to give you a quick demonstration, if we are to go back to our layers and I was to turn on my geometry, and then I was to press 4, click on my root joint, shift click on my geometry and go skin, bind skin, smooth bind. Maya now knows that we have a skeleton attached to our geometry, but it doesn't really know which bit moves where. So for example, you can see we get a ton of really bad deformations. Now that's partly because we've got the IK, we've got the FK there, and it looks kind of really bad. So what we're going to do is just put those back to 0. I'm just going to make sure. One thing you always have to do is just make sure you're never on caps lock, which is a really big problem in Maya if you've got the caps lock on. So you shouldn't be on that. Okay. So we've got our our skin attached to our geometry, but we've got some bad deformations. So now what we're going to do is tell Maya which bit of the geometry should follow which joint. So if we're going to click on the paint weight skin tool, so double click there, and what you will notice is a big menu set comes up. So the first thing that you want to do, I'm just going to reset it. First thing you want to notice is we've got our radius U here, we've got a ton of brushes here, and we've got normalize weights, which is at post, we've got our weight type, we've got our list of joints, which if we select, you can see we get different parts of the rig highlighted and also parts of the geometry highlighted. We've got different modes, opacities, values, and we've got use color ramp. So let's give a quick explanation of this. As we click down in our joints list, you can see that we select a joint and it gives us a black or white value as to which part is being influenced. At the moment, our left shoulder joint, and that's the FK, is influencing all the way down to the elbow. And we can see that because of the highlight. So that we can then use our brushes to adjust that value. Now, in normalize weights, we've got the word post. And what post basically means is it means that you can paint weights, but you go over a value of 1. When you have your final weighting going on in your geometry and also across your joints, the most important thing is when it comes to the actual final animation, it should really be at 1. However, you can maintain the final output level at something, at a level that is greater than 1, and you can keep in the post weight normalize weights mode. However, post is really just painting mode. When you actually want it to become final, you want to click on interactive. So we'll keep post mode on at the moment. Now what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here and we're going to get use color ramp. So what that means is it becomes far clearer where actually our paint weights are being affected. So out here in blue you can see what's actually affecting most of the chest and shoulder area, as well as into the actual forearms. That's a bit of a problem for us. So looking at our joints and looking at the way our joints work, we've got an FK-IK switch, and really what we're doing is we're just getting our main joint chain, in that case, to move between 2 points. So what that means is that we don't want to have any influences on the FK-IK, but we actually want all the influences just to be on the main joint, because that's the part that's moving. The FK and IK are simply, points that these joints should move between. So that's why we only want to do the paint weighting on the original joint chain, not the FK or IK chains. So let's start off by clicking on the left shoulder joint, making sure that we've got post and we've also got our use color ramp selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on a soft brush, which is that one, and you can see that our shoulder, it's got quite a nice set of influences. However, what we need to do is I'm going to scroll down here, and you've got different menu down here. You've got add, smooth, scale and replace, and I want us to click on add, and I want us to add influence around here, the shoulder area right here. And as you can see, it highlights where we want our weight to be. So that's really where our shoulder is, so that's where we want our weights to be. If you prefer, you can switch it off, so you can actually see a very much more highlighted version, simply using black and white. But either or, you can switch between two different modes as you prefer. However, what I'm going to do now is I am going to go back to and click on replace, and then I'm going to turn my opacity down to 0, and then I'm going to paint. So I'm going to try scale. No, replace is good. Turn my opacity down to 0, and then paint around here. See if that works with the color ramp. Or let's just change the value to 0, and then keep the opacity at 1, change the value to 0, and then click and start. Aha, right. So then you should start just to paint in replace. So that should mean that these are not being selected. However, in this case, I think it looks better if we're not using the ramp, but using just simply black and white. Okay, so we want to push it back from here. Okay. So that means that that joint is being influenced there. Now what we want to do is we want to go into our left, find our left FK joints. So there's our FK joint, left shoulder FK. And what we want to do is we want to completely replace our painting with 0. So that we actually want to turn it all off. So all I've done is I've selected the left shoulder FK, and now what I'm doing is I'm painting a replace in, but with a value of 0. And that's telling Maya, do not have any influence from this joint. Here we go. So add would add in influence. Scale just simply scales the paint weight, and smooths them out. In this case, we simply want to replace the value with 0, so it means there's no actual influence from the joint. And we want to do exactly the same thing for the IK. You can see the IK goes way, way, way beyond its jurisdiction of that area. So let's just replace it again with a value 0. And the reason we're doing that is so that all the weighting remains on our main joint chain, because the IK and FK are simply points between which our main joint chain move, and are not actually part of the motion of the character. So let's just paint that out. There we go. And now let's do exactly the same thing for the elbow. So we've got our left elbow joint. We don't want FK. We simply want our left shoulder joint. So there's our left elbow joint. So what we need to do now is to replace our word replace with the word add and change our value up to 1. And then we want to paint on the elbow where we want